And that, again, that is my whole beef. If you're not going to approve someone who has covered 3 Super Bowls like myself, interview players like I have, work the room, talk to people, network around, ask the right questions, have PR people say, hey, do you have room for TJ Ward? Oh, yeah, I got room for TJ Ward. Hold on a minute. Let me finish this interview with Brian Baldinger, and I'll get TJ Ward on. Dude, I would have people waiting to be interviewed because they want to tell their story. They want to talk about why they're there. I mean, dude, I had people lined up, PR agents. I had to turn PR agents down because I had so many. I had so many interviews, so many people to talk to. And those that really didn't have anything specific with the NFL, but they have things like the taste of the NFL, or they have maybe the NFL PA, guys wanted to talk. And so, I mean, I'm just saying relative to football, let's talk about football. I don't care if Taylor Swift's cat is hairless. I mean, it has no bearing on the game. Nothing from the athleticism standpoint, has nothing to do with whether you're going to catch for 2 touchdowns and 220 yards. Zero to do with nothing. And it's just a bunch of garbage that I'm denied like Judas to Jesus. So I don't have the ability to get into this event, now turned down 2 years in a row, in fact, for no reason whatsoever other than you don't have a major team in your area. Okay, great. But do you know what I do? I mean, do you watch what I do? Do you go to my website? Do you see anything that's football related? Nod your head yes, because it's there.
Well, that's good to know, Rudy, because I have a lot of teams in my area. I have the Giants. I think they're still an NFL team. The Jets, they're still NFL, I think. Eagles. I can even stretch to the Commanders, too, who are going to change their name again, I hear, which would be pretty cool. That would be media
back
news.
To the original, back to the OG. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, you're not allowed to say it on any show like ours, but I think everybody remembers the original name.
I mean, we can say it.
Yeah. Why can't we say it?
Yeah, we can say it. There's nothing.
Yeah.
If I renamed them, it'd be easy. The Hogs. Go after that 80s stuff. I love it. I don't even care about the political stuff. The Hogs would be cool.
Yep, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Native Americans
by the way, the Hogs' average offensive line weight was 255 pounds.
Yes. Different world.
Yeah, that's a linebacker now.
Nice lean Hogs.
You just rolled that into one person.
Well, I want to commend us because we hit 67% against the spread on this show. You can't, fib and make this up. When you're a live show, if you put out a best bet, everybody can check it, right?
Yep.
So I'm pretty proud of that. I think we did an incredible job. A lot of our wins were dominating wins too. It wasn't like we got lucky by winning by the hook or had a referee. Well, I guess we could have done better if we would have bet on the Chiefs, come to think of it more often. But hopefully the referees keep the yellow flags in their pocket for the Super Bowl, which they generally do. Penalties go down in rate during the Super Bowl, so they let them play. And I think that's a very good thing going into the Super Bowl, especially if you're an Eagles fan. We don't want to see a flop and then watch the replay where he's not even touched.
And he falls down and they call a penalty for roughing the passer.
That to me, Rudy, would be worse than listening to an interview asking what's your favorite cat or cat size, or does your cat eat raw food or organic food? Does it like milk? See, that would be more appalling to me. So the Kansas City Chiefs are going for 3 in a row. It's never been done.
Yeah.
Eagles are standing in their way for the second time in 3 years. This Eagles team was, they were 2-2, and I think the city of Philadelphia wanted to fire Sirianni and just melt the team down and start over. But they've lost only one time since then, and that was to the Washington Commanders, which was a game on the road, and Jaden Daniels did some miracle stuff to bring that team back for that win. So they could easily be undefeated since week 4.
That was the Kenny Pickett game, John, too. That was the Kenny Pickett game. So throw that one out.
Oh, right? That's right. That's a great point. Yep. That's when Hurts got hurt and Pickett came in and the comeback was on. And also the Kansas City Chiefs, they are the Chiefs. They are one of the few teams, however, to ever be in a Super Bowl that didn't score 31 or more points during the regular season. We're so used to the Chiefs being offensively gifted, and this team is different. This team is more of a complete team, I think. They're more defensively strong than previous editions, but it's going to be an awesome game. Humbly stated, I'm 23-5 in Super Bowls against the spread. And yes, I have had some fortuitous wins, like Seattle forgetting that they had Marshawn Lynch as a running back and the Patriots picking it off in the end zone. So yeah, and the Patriots against the Falcons. There's not an analytic in the world that I can tell you that, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
No. At halftime, you had to be like, wow, I lost.
Right?
It was. It truly was. I'll never forget that. But then all of a sudden, when they got the opening kickoff, and the only good thing on that Super Bowl, guys, is that the Falcons, if you were a Patriots fan, was that the Falcons defense was on the field a ton in that first half. Yeah. Because the Falcons were scoring so quickly. And then you could start seeing the wear and tear on that defense, and Brady just started slicing them up. And then you got into the fourth quarter, and you could almost see this unfolding before your very eyes. I actually turned my cell phone over so I wouldn't move off the couch. I wouldn't have moved for any reason whatsoever other than the house being on fire. And even then, I probably would have thought twice. I just didn't want to jinx anything. But anyway, that was quite a lucky win. Anyway, let's get into this thing. I'm going to get a couple slides up here just to get things rolling analytically. We'll save that one for a little bit later, and that one too. So here we go. And these are not necessarily any order or ranking. The under is 11-4 in a matchup where one of the teams has averaged at least one or more minutes of time of possession during the regular season. In other words, they had time of possession advantage over the course of the regular season. The Eagles were ranked number 1 in the NFL in time of possession. The under is 10-2, 83%, when one of the teams, being the Chiefs, have averaged 100 more yards after the catch per game. The teams that have averaged more penalty yards per game, more aggressive, I guess is my tone, during the regular season and priced as the dog, have gone 7-7, but 11-3 against the spread. That's pretty darn good stuff for the Eagles. In a matchup of two teams who both have attained a first down on 30% or more of their plays during the regular season, the dog is 10-6, straight up, 12-4 against the number. That supports the Eagles. And this one is really mind-blowing. This one works against the Eagles. You think that running would be so important in a Super Bowl, controlling the clock, keeping the other offense off the field. Not so much. The team that had more 100-plus rushing yard games during the regular seasons and are priced between a 3-point favorite and a 3-point dog are just 1-10, straight up 1-10 against the spread in the Super Bowl. So, if you're an Eagle fan, just close your ears on that one. But there's a lot of trends here, guys, that, can really be confusing for especially all the new bettors that are out there in our industry. Which trend means more? Which trend, what do I believe? I heard this one guy, Eagles are 5-0 because they're playing their 5th consecutive game as a home team. That kind of stuff is really hard if you're not, been doing it for 30 years. So here's a couple more. Teams that average more offensive yards per game during the regular season don't have an advantage. 6-17 straight up. That's fading the Eagles, 26%. Teams that had I love this one. Teams that had the first round bye facing a team that did not have the first round bye. In other words, the number 1 seed going up against any other seed other than one are 2-8 straight up and 0-10. I mean, how's that possible? 0-10. Against the number that's fading the Chiefs. Dogs that scored in 10 of their 12 previous quarters in the playoffs have gone 10-6 straight up, 12-4. That supports the Eagles. And you can read the last two here if you want. Those are pretty good trends as well. And then we'll finish this off here, and then we can move on. Favorites with the better win percentage. In other words, they won more games. Actually, they won the same number of games, but Kansas City has one loss on the entire season. But look at the record. 1-12 against the spread. That works against the Chiefs. In games priced between a 3-point dog and favorite, the team with the better win percentage has gone 1-6, both straight up and against the spread in games with a total of 50 or fewer points. The team with a better win percentage, not so good, 5-7 straight up and a horrid 1-11 ATS for 8%. Oh, Taylor, you're not going to like these trends at all. In games where the team had the higher win percentage but had a defense that allowed more points per game than the opponent, have gone 1-6 straight up, 0-7 against the number. So all of those work in favor of the Eagles. Let's just start out with Jim here and see what he has to say about this game and any. I'm sure you have leans at this point. We're about 3 days away from the official kickoff. But just getting your thoughts here. The one thing I will say, guys, and you can pick this apart, is I've been leaning the under here basically since the line came out. The betting world is on the over, and that happens almost every single year in the Super Bowl. The betting public bets overs. That's why your prop bets are all inflated by 25% or more. So caution there on the prop bets of betting too many of those over. Sure, you might win, but you have better chance if you go on the pro side and bet the unders where appropriate. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think this under is in play because 84% of the tickets at the Circa, which is amateur bettors now because they're on holiday, they're there for the Super Bowl, to let the hair down and have some fun. They're betting the over in reckless abandon, yet the number has gone from 49.5 to 48.5, which means the Circus trying to get more people to bet the over. And that is a contrarian red flag, and I do think I'm going to be playing the under probably more aggressively than the side. But anyway, take it away, Jim, and tell us what you think of this game and any great prop bets, because you are the GOAT in DFS, that's for sure.
Yeah, so all the trends you gave obviously point Eagles, and it's very hard to buck those trends. But I will mention a couple things. First of all, people have said all year, well, the Chiefs are not a great team. The Chiefs are this and that. They win by a couple points. They beat bad teams. This team has the right to be arrogant, and I mean it this way. They don't show their hand until they have to. They have been tinkering all season. If somebody gets hurt, wait till they get healthy. This team knows they're going to be playing in either late January, 7 straight years, or in February. They know that's going to happen. So the team we saw all year, that's not the team we're going to see. The team we saw against the Bills, it was not the same team we saw all year. It'll be the same here. That's the first point I want to make about this game. The other side with the Eagles, there's 2 quick points I want to make. The Eagles, that 2022 Super Bowl, a lot of people are referencing back how Jalen Hurts had a great game against them. Understand this. The league did not call ineligible man downfield penalties. It was a cheat code the Eagles had. So what the Eagles did was when they would do their RPOs, they'd have linemen downfield. It gave them free access to plays over and over. That penalty being gone, Hurts can be exposed in 2 ways. Doesn't do well when he has to roll to his left. So Spagnuolo's going to send heat from the opposite side. The other thing is he doesn't do great against zone defense. And the Chiefs play about 31% man, which is high in the league. I expect to play more zone here. And so when this game sets up, one more thing, Barkley's a great runner. We know it. Beautiful season. But it's a lot of big runs. You notice all year, the Chiefs didn't always finish drives. And I'm sorry, the Eagles didn't always finish drives. Barkley often wasn't a sustaining runner. He would get some short runs and then he'd bust a long one. So when I'm looking at this whole game, the Chiefs coaching is going to be a big advantage here. So I'm just going to start there before we get to props. We got a long time to talk, but I do think the Chiefs tactically have an edge here.
Let's see what Bo has to say now. I think I agree with what Jim has to say there about the coaching advantage. Definitely siding with Andy Reid. I mean, look at his track record just in bye weeks when he has 2 weeks to prepare. It's unbelievably good. But then on the other side, you have that mojo with the Eagles, and that it's kind of like a magical, like they are the team of destiny. And it doesn't matter if we're playing Bill Belichick or Andy Reid. It doesn't matter. We are going to beat you. And they've been showing that for weeks now. But take it away, Bo, and let's hear what you had to say about the game initially and anything else.
Yeah, so I mean, this game's going to be interesting. I am leaning towards the Eagles here straight up. And not that the line is huge, right? Like if you, it'd be hard for them not to cover anyway. But yeah, I like the Eagles. I like their defense. Obviously, their secondary, mostly is healthy, right? So that was one concern as you got towards the end of the year, is if their defensive secondary was going to be healthy. But everybody's there basically. So when you look at the Eagles compared to KC, they're the better team across the board. Except there is an insane amount of, history when it comes to KC now, right? Like they have all of the all of the knowledge from the last couple of years on their side. And so this moment's not going to be too big. Where the Eagles kind of contrast with that is a lot of their new players were in national championships. So this scenario isn't unique to them. They've been through a crazy week leading up and Radio Row and all of the extra stuff. So I don't think it's going to be like the first time the Eagles met them, where they looked a little bit out of sorts in moments. I think this is going to be really a great game overall. There are some fun prop bets out there. Some of them are a little bit ridiculous. One of them is Saquon going to beat Terrell Davis's postseason rushing record as far as yardage? He's absolutely going to do that, because I think he only needs like 30 yards or something. So that's kind of a no-brainer. But one of the prop bets out there is he going to set the all-time Super Bowl record, which is 169 yards. This
Isn't it
case,
204?
this
Timmy
case-
Smith, 204 yards, right?
What's that?
Timmy Smith had 204 yards, right? With Washington?
In the Super Bowl? Oh, it said one of the prop bets said it was 169. Was his all-purpose yards maybe?
I'll check it. Keep going. I'll check it. 204.
Oh, 204. Oh, yeah. You're right. So 205. My bad. So do I think he's going to do that? Absolutely not. KC's defense is way too good for that. They were ranked 8th against the run. So, I mean, everybody is enamored by what Saquon is doing. He's not going to tear off 200 yards against this defense. One, because their defense is too good and they'll shut a lot of that down. And two, do you really think that they're going to be beating KC so bad that they can run the entire day? Probably not, right? They're going to have to use this pass game. So I think if I were to sign up for one of these prop bets, it would be a Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. They combine for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. I like that prop bet because the odds are they're going to get that rushing yardage for sure, because both of them scramble well. Jalen Hurts might end up being both of those touchdowns with the tush push, right? So if you look at that 60-yard prop bet for both quarterbacks for rushing 60 and 2 touchdowns, I'd sign up for that one all day.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I'll add this too. A lot of people that don't watch football all the time, you may be inclined to think that the team that scores first is probably the team that's going to win. Well, not so much. There's a lot of statistics. We'll get into those on another slide that we use for live in-game betting purposes that you can take a look at halftime and see what the history is of potential comebacks in certain situations. But don't be fooled. If anything, the team that scores first, you want to then bet in-game on the other team. So that is a pretty big one there. Let's see what Rudy Reyes has to say here. I know he's been really following the people who somehow in this world got credentials when others didn't, and rightfully so. I mean, I think we're all pretty upset about the quality of that's what's being delivered, and I've heard enough. I've heard enough from famous people, name not being said, that aren't part of the football game. It's time now to really determine, is Carter for the Eagles, is he really ill, or is this just rumor? Because that's been running around now for about 24 hours. I don't even know I couldn't even find out if he practiced yesterday.
Limited.
So
he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, a little showmanship by Sirianni, I think. But anyway, take it away, Rudy. Tell us what you really think. Don't hold anything back. And
he
let
won't.
it go.
Well, I'm really going to tell you how I feel here. And first of all, when you look at this game, this isn't a smoke and mirrors type of situation. These teams know each other. They played against each other. They're familiar with one another. And I guarantee the Eagles are looking back at that last Super Bowl they played against Kansas City Chiefs to say, we know what we need to do. We know how to do it. We need to play man when we need to play man. You're not going to have Isaiah Pacheco rip off, runs of anything plus 15 or 20 yards. However, on the receiving side for Kansas City, if there was a prop bet, it would be DeAndre Hopkins, maybe 2.2 on the over. Why? Because he was so dynamic in the AFC Championship game. Nobody really expected him to do much of anything, considering his numbers leading up to that point weren't all that great anyway. But they spread it around. They go to Travis Kelce. They go to Xavier Worthy. They get it to guys that otherwise would not have an opportunity to play in that game. So D Hopkins is certainly a prop bet of mine. And when I look at this offense, I think to myself, man, you can call whatever you want. If the Eagles somehow don't show their cards too early, I've said this before, if they want to hold on what a zero blitz is, if they want to not show their cards against Andy Reid, who's the magician of being able to switch and call audibles to get Patrick Mahomes to do something completely different in order to scramble, get out of the pocket, or throw with like a 0.45 second, snap to throw ratio. If that can happen, you're going to catch this Eagles defense off guard. Now, with that being said, Brandon Graham, I believe, is actually coming back.
Yes.
So he has the ability to be that effective guy, whereas he hasn't even played a game. So this is something that to look out for. The matchup between Kelce and Graham could very well be in the mix of what this looks like from the onset. It's a good matchup. I like it, especially with Travis in the slot. If you put him on the outs, that may be a different story. You're going to have to rely on your secondary to really shut down Kelce and to double him off the line if you're playing a man, zone type of coverage. However, the Eagles themselves know what they need to do. If they studied hard enough, if they recognize a lot of what the looks are from Kansas City, and believe me, I can guarantee you there'll be some things that Andy Reid himself will throw at this defense to get them to really figure out what they need to do by halftime in order to make those corrections and prevent Patrick Mahomes from getting out from under center. It's about pressure, and more pressure. If they can disguise the blitz, if they can get into the backfield early and often on any given down, you're going to find Patrick Mahomes throwing errant, throws. This isn't going to be a high-scoring 30-point game. I'm not going to get into my final pick yet, but this is not about a high-scoring game. This game will somehow be in the early 20s and mid at worst-case scenario. And I'll give you my picks. Obviously, we'll do that by the end of the show. But the Chiefs themselves, from the standpoint of where they're at in the best being the under here, I'll take that all day. I mean, I will take that every single day and twice on Sunday. Unfortunately, the only the other piece of that pie I can take is the Eagles covering, which they will. But this is going to be a very interesting matchup. I call it the ultimate rematch between, as you stated, John, a team of destiny in the Philadelphia Eagles getting in the way of a three-peat that has not been done in the NFL since before the Raiders tried it, since before the 49ers tried it, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have tried it, and they all failed. So we're going to find out what this looks like, and it's going to be probably one of the greatest rematches. And it's hard to get back there. Make no mistake about it. It's like trying to win a back-to-back pennant in Major League Baseball. It's almost unheard of. So this is going to be quite interesting to see what this game brings us. And of course, you got to love the commercials.
Is that one of your prop bets, the commercials?
Yes. Which one's going to get the most? Who's the over? Who's the under? Who get more airplay?
I think the funniest prop bet that they have every year is how long is the national anthem? That one is a funny prop bet. They do it every year. It's like, how much finesse to the song is the singer going to put on it? And it's always funny. It's always funny.
I think it's 6-1 over, and it went under for the first time last year, if my memory is correct. I've never been that much of a degenerate to consider betting that prop bet.
That's saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I've been known to bet the coin flip, and then the team who wins the coin flip wins the game.
Okay. I mean, betting the coin flip.
But the national anthem's off limits.
Yeah, the national anthem is off limits. Yep.
But I'll do the coin flip.
And my prop bet I like for the halftime show is I'm going to bet too long.
Nice.
Nice. It's going to be too long for me. I want to get back to the game.
Oh, that's an easy prop bet because as soon as it starts, I'm like, can we get back to football? Like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Right.
These guys have rested long enough. Let's go.
You know,
It's
Rudy
hard for
mentioned
players,
something.
you know, like they're so used to that 20-minute break.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be the better part of 45, 50 minutes.
Really?
Wait, what?
Is that long?
That the halftime show takes a while to set up. You'll notice, at least in my experience, you notice that they
about 30 minutes.
Okay. Still significant though. Yeah. Still significant.
It's much longer than the regular season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rudy had mentioned something earlier about like the teams that face each other and they've seen things. There's one thing that really has been on my mind. Jason Kelce, the retired center of the Eagles, he called protections for them very regularly. And that was in that last Super Bowl when they played Spagnuolo. Cam Jurgens, his first year at center. Jalen Hurts, look, he doesn't have that much experience to be able to call Steve Spagnuolo's like protections, what he's going to see coming. I'm worried about that. I'm worried they're going to have a real hard time with all of the stuff that Spagnuolo is going to throw at them. Jason Kelce was a master. That dude could get everybody moving, saw what to do, understood it. That's like a real quiet factor about the game that nobody's talking about.
So, but do you think
more.
it's as big of a factor as you're stating it? Because remember, he was on that line with Kelce, and he was picked by Kelce to be his replacement, right?
Sure.
So it's not like he's not familiar with how that works. Do I think he calls it out as perfectly as Kelce did? Of course not, right? Like there's a lot of, experience there. But at the same time, I mean, he had a couple of years behind Kelce standing right next to him.
I'm going to defer to Tom Brady on this one. And Brady talked about it this week.
Yeah.
Brady talked about Spagnuolo, and he said the only way he was able to somewhat crack Spagnuolo is that I played quarterback for him, and he talked about the protections and calling that. And he goes, it was late in my career, and I didn't always have success. But because of all the times I played him and all the film study I did, I was able to get decent at it. So I'm deferring to Brady and saying Cam Jurgens is not going to be Jason Kelce, because Jason Kelce was in that Brady stratosphere of literally of understanding what was seeing. He was that much of a cerebral center. So that's all I'm saying.
No, I totally agree with that. He's definitely not Kelce.
He's been shifty. No, he's definitely not Kelce. Matter of fact, he didn't look all that great during the beginning to the middle part of the season. Cam Jurgens had some false starts, high snaps, things of that nature. They used silent counts when they needed to, but they didn't use a lot of that. I kind of foresee that as being maybe kind of the difference maker, especially in short yardage situations where you use a silent snap count so you can confuse Spagnuolo. And I mean, if you're within 10 to 12, yards within the goal line, you're going to use a silent count in order to draw them outside, so you can get closer to the end zone. So Cam Jurgens doesn't have to put a high snap out there. It can still use a silent count and get into the end zone.
I think the key with what Jim's saying, taking it one step further, is Jalen Hurts, first of all, is not Tom Brady. And what I mean by that is he holds the ball way too long. He holds the ball way too long. Brady got rid of it an average for his career of 1.8 seconds. And I think that's going to be something to watch early on in the game, because I think Jim's right. Nobody has figured out Spagnuolo's defensive blitzes and when they're coming. A lot of times it looks like they're coming and they don't. So if you change the protection to cover for a blitz, and they don't come, then you're really screwed as a quarterback, and that's when Hurts could hold the ball way too long, and that's sadly that's when the turnovers can happen, or he throws it out of bounds, and they regroup. But
if you got a real athletic QB, that's where you tuck it and run. If everybody bails out, you tuck it. You see that drop out,
especially if you see the backs of the jerseys.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to have
Yep.
to recognize that he can call the audibles. I mean, he has the ability to call them and switch gears to further confuse that Spagnuolo defense. The problem is that you have Chris Jones, who is not the traditional nose tackle. Of course, nobody even calls them that anymore. But he plays so many roles on that defense that he's able to sniff that stuff out. So again, calling the audible situationally may be your best bet when you open up those A gaps. You see daylight, man, you run. Don't wait, just run. Run, Forrest, run.
Hey, the beauty of that, you mentioned Chris Jones in that game against Buffalo. Everybody remembers that sack where the corner got not the sack, the forced pass to Allen that wasn't complete. What people didn't notice was they moved Chris Jones on the opposite side of that, knowing they would slide protection to his side, which opened up extra room for that extra blitzer to come. And again, that's just the genius of Spagnuolo. You've got Chris Jones. You think he's going to make the play? No, not exactly. We're just going to give you open space for everybody else. Thought that was brilliant.
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
and that's where his roaming capability has a lot to do with, almost like what the QB spy free safety is supposed to do, right? That sits somewhere in the middle of the field. Chris Jones is a guy you can line up anywhere to make that impact. He's so big, he's athletic, and he will get to the backfield when he needs to, when he has to, and or, as you stated, Jim, set up the play to allow other guys to defend that ball to prevent a first down, as Kincaid clearly was not able to pull that ball in.
I mean, I would imagine that they're going to come to the line with can plays in place almost every down, right? Because the dome's going to be loud. So I would imagine in the huddle, they're probably calling 2 plays anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. What I hear is it's definitely going to be more of an Eagles home game in terms of the fan base. So that's an important thing too to consider if that's going to prove to be correct. Ticket prices have been going down for this Super Bowl as well.
Wow.
Which is kind of surprising. It's got to be the bad podcasters producing their content, Rudy. That's the only thing I can think of to make the cost of the tickets go down.
We're saying this is what we should expect in the game. I'm not going. I don't want to get ran over by a car just because I'm walking into the dome. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
No, that's a prop bet you don't want to take for sure.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I'm going to move over here to the my predictive stuff here. I'm just going to gloss over this. Anybody has questions that's listening, you can get me at johnryansports@gmail.com or just get me on the X, and we'll answer any questions you have. But teams that scored points in the first and second quarters are 12-6 straight up and 11-7 ATS. And if a dog, look at that, 8-1. And that is independent of what the opponent does. So this isn't saying that they scored in both quarters and are leading the game. It just means they scored 3 or more points or 2 or more points in each of the first and second quarters. So that's something to really pay attention to for live in-game betting. Dogs that lead or are tied at the half are 8-3, 9-2 ATS. Favorites that lead, you would think that the favorite would have a huge advantage going into the second half, that they're just going to run away with it and wear the underdog out. It's not so much. This is where the comebacks happen. 9-4 straight up. So that means 4 times out of 13 games, the dog came back and won. And 5-8 against the spread with a 9-4 under. So that means the dog was 8-5 at halftime when trailing. Favorites that are leading by no more than a single score, meaning 8 or fewer points, entering the fourth, are just 4-4. Every year I look at that stat, it blows my mind. You would think, common sense would tell you that a favorite that's leading by 8 or fewer points would go on to win. But they, as you can see, it's a 50-50 proposition. So again, if the Eagles are trailing by 1 score going into the fourth, I can tell you right now, I will be putting some pizza money on the Eagles to make it really exciting down the stretch. And this could be a game where the team that has the ball last wins the game. There is a trend, and I've never figured out how to use this trend effectively, that the team that scores last in the game is on an 18-0 ATS win streak. Okay, that's kind of fine and dandy, but that's just like fitting the data into something that, I mean, how do you know a team scores and it's going to be the last score of the game unless it's already 3 minutes to go in the game. But if Tom Brady's on the other side of the field, the game ain't over. And Mahomes is on the other side. So if the Eagles score late in the game to take the lead and there's still more than 2 minutes left, you have no idea if that was the last score of the game until the game's over. So I would be careful listening to that kind of trend because it's never made, it's never really made sense to me on that.
You know what that makes it the parallel for that is when people are looking for something and they're like, yeah, it was the last place I looked. It's like, well, I hope so. I hope you stopped looking after you found it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then the chart on the bottom here is the average for favorites. The team is the favorite. So they average 25 rushes, 105 rushing yards, 40 pass plays, 281 passing yards, 25 completions, turnovers 1.9, and then the scoring. And if you look at the scoring, this has always been quite interesting to me. I mentioned that I like the under the beginning of the show. However, if you like the over, you want to definitely know that the first quarter is the lowest scoring in the Super Bowl, 6.7 points per game on average. But then look at the second quarter, guys. It goes up to almost 15. So you're going to have a shot here. If this is a low-scoring game, it could be, for example, if there's a score in the first 6 minutes of the game, the answering no to that over the last 15 Super Bowls has won 11 of those 15 times. What's to say that, this game goes that route and it's 6 minutes into the game, there's no score, and it looks like these guys are just going to slug it out in a low-scoring affair. It doesn't mean you don't like the over anymore because it's probably going to drop to 42.5. And that's where you want to take advantage of the scoring, what I call scoring volatility. There's going to be quiet times on the scoreboard, and then there's going to be some violent times on the scoreboard. Third quarter, we slow down a little bit again, down to about 11. And then look at the fourth quarter. That is the highest scoring quarter at 15.5 points per game. So just keep that in mind. I think those zigzags, quarter one, quarter three are the lower scoring quarters. 2 and 4 are the higher. So that's that for that chart. My prop bets, I'll go through these really quick, and then we'll get to a fun one, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to do your prop bets, best bets, whatever you want to say. The number of times that Taylor Swift will be seen on TV. I sometimes just like, wow. Like, I want to see the person that actually goes to the window at the Circa say, okay, give me over on Taylor Swift's visibility appearances or whatever the heck the prop is called. I just want to see what the person looks like,
Oh, she's 18.
Well, yeah, I guess you have to be 18 to bet it, unless you have your mom go do it for you. But anyway, here's, let's see. These are my, that's the one that we're going to have fun with. So here, where the heck is it now? My prop bets. Now you guys you talked about records and stuff like that. And these are pizza money bets. So like I said, 1 unit max on a scale of 1/4 of a unit to 10 units. My side bets range from 5 to 10 units. 10 units are very rare. So, you bet within reason. And these are to be, have fun with. And this is the one time of the year that I don't use, analytics as my sole reason to make a bet. I'm having fun with these. A.J. Brown over 150 receiving yards at 12-1. A.J. Brown over 70 receiving yards, -120. Obviously, I think he has a great matchup advantage, especially in man coverage, especially if they put him in the slot going over the middle. All indications are that he's about as close to 100% healthy as he's been in months. KC, most sacks. I think they will get to Hurts more. Eagles defense, in my opinion, and Jim can comment on this as well, will be more about containment than sacking Mahomes. Will any player break the Super Bowl record receiving yards record by Jerry Rice, 216 yards? I'm going to say yes. Just for fun. I just think it's time that something big happens. And yes, at 20-1 odds, that's not the real odds. It's probably 80-1 in real statistics. But just for fun, a $20 bet to win 400. Hey, I'll do it. And then I always like this one, the octopus. is the same player scores a touchdown and the 2-point conversion. So what if we had the Philly special and Hurts scores a touchdown and then they do the tush push and he scores the 2-pointer? At 14-1, it's horrible odds. You're not getting paid near enough to take the risk. But again, you're doing pizza money. The real odds on this are closer to plus 8,000 than it is 1,400. But it's the Super Bowl, and like I said, I'm having fun with these, and that's all that matters. So let's go. Let's start with Jim here, and we'll go through his prop bets, what he sees here, and if you agree with me on the sacks bet, because you know the defenses and the offenses pretty well, and what kind of schemes they're going to run. So I kind of like that one that Kansas City's going to have more sacks.
Yeah, I think you're on that one because they know Jalen Hurts' weakness. It's zone defense, but if you play zone, you got to make him think longer, and he holds the ball longer. And I really think they're going to play more zone because they know that's his weakness. Again, that leads us. So I love that call. Props I like. Look, it's a Travis Kelce day because, first of all, Philadelphia is going to play that Vic Fangio zone. We already know what to expect. He's going to play everybody back. Don't give up explosive. That's the whole facet of their defense. Because if they creep in, you've got Hollywood Brown, you got Xavier Worthy, and if Mahomes sees you're going to play a one high safety, he is going to shred you. Teams don't want to take that chance. So Travis Kelce should be able to get, first of all, I like him over 6.5 receptions. I like that better than the receiving yardage, 61.5, but I think both are good bets. I like the catches better because there'll be a lot of dump offs, so they just need to get him the ball. That'll work. Kelce's anytime touchdown went up from plus 130 to plus 140 on DraftKings yesterday. I don't see too many worlds where he doesn't score. They get near the goal line. They have probably a dozen different plays with him they can run. It's not like they have to force him the ball. It's that there are so many variations of plays and the mind meld between he and Mahomes. That's the best place to go in the red zone because you just have options. And having that chemistry, that's important. Xavier Worthy over 5.5 receptions. He is averaging 9 targets over his last 5 games. He's gone over 6. He had 6 or more catches in 4 of his last 5 games. The game he missed, he had 5. He's become a staple in the short area. And again, that's what the Eagles tend to give you. A couple more quick ones. Dallas Goedert. I know John went the other way on this. Dallas Goedert over 4.5 receptions. And here's why. First of all, wild card round. Tucker Kraft catches 5 passes against his defense. Tyler Higbee catches 7. Colby Parkinson, same game, catches 2 more. Zach Ertz catches 11 passes. This defense gives up space. You know what? I was talking about the Kelce one. That was back in the Kelce one. My bad on that one. But Goddard, Kansas City's one of the worst teams in the league against the tight end. They've always been horrible against tight end. They don't put much of an effort to stop them. And Goddard's had 4 catches only in 3 of the last 4 games. So he's gone under and he's at a 7, but they're going to give them that. The zone is going to try to take away A.J. Brown and a little bit of Devontae Smith, although Smith does play the slot a lot. I just think Goddard gets a lot of love there. Last one, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown, minus 110. You have to think it's a tush pusher.
Yeah, the Goddard one, I'll tell you why I bet under. And it was for purposes of this show, is that is the most popular bet at the Circa right now by far. It's the distance between the popularity. I've never seen such a gap to the second most popular. And as a rule, it doesn't happen. You don't win all the time, but when it becomes where the betting public is at that window betting with irrational exuberance that this is a lock and this and the other thing that's going to happen, I tend to just throw a little pizza money on the other side just in case. But common sense, I agree 100% with Jim. I think I made a pizza money bet that's not going to win because Kansas City does have problems covering the tight end. But the number is 4.5. Why isn't it 6.5 for Goddard? That's the other thing that really caught my eye was that I would think he catches 6 or 7, right? Why is it 4.5? I mean, 4
he had 4. Yeah, he had 4 in 3 of his last 4 games. So no, he's been under that. So I think that drives it. But they moved the juice. They went from like minus 120 to minus 134 now. So they're moving the juice instead of the number.
I did get plus 108 on the under. So that's a good point. So that alone, getting plus money, it's obviously not the best bet I could have made. I could have maybe gotten 5.5 and paid minus 120 under. But nevertheless, let's move over to Bo here and see what he's got for us in the game, the total, the props. Swifty bets, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I'll start off with the over-under. I do like the over here, especially now that it dropped a little bit. I expect this to be a 27-24 type of game. So I don't think it's going to be the, track meet that a lot of people think it could be. I guess they're forgetting that both these teams have a top 10 defense. So that's a little bit weird. But when it comes to prop bets, like the one I mentioned before, the Hurts and Mahomes, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns, that one was plus 600. That one seems fun. There's a second version of it where it's 100 yards. That one's plus 900. I wouldn't touch that one. 60 yards, I could see. 100 yards, I mean, unless somebody just breaks one off randomly, but neither one of these guys are good for running the entire field. So it's not like a Lamar where he can bounce outside and take it to the house. So I would stay away from the 100-yarder. The 60-yarder, I think, would be a fun one. Again, with pizza money, though, I wouldn't put a lot of money on that. Plus 600 is still not great. A Kelsey anytime touchdown. That just sounds like free money. It's still on the plus side, so I don't know why you wouldn't do it. If they get close, he's a big body target in the middle. You take that. And then there's one that's intriguing is Barkley 25 yards per quarter is a plus 750. And that is really tempting, with the exception of the fact that the Eagles don't play offense in the first quarter, certainly on the first drive. So that is a prop bet that can get destroyed in the first quarter. But if it survives the first quarter, you're probably going to win some money.
Yeah, I really like that one. I mean, Barkley ripped off one play for 65 yards in the last game. I mean,
yeah,
not that that's going to happen in this one against the Kansas City defense, but I like that one quite a bit, actually, now that I've heard you talk about it. Rudy, what good stuff do you have for us?
It's kind of easy for me. I'm sticking with the never-ending coin toss, and I know it's probably the silliest prop bet that's out there, other than whether or not Taylor Swift's cat sleeps on her hair and she wakes up wondering what happened to it and it got matted. Anyway, so I actually like the odds here of the coin toss landing on the head side, and I say that because the head typically doesn't have any hair. So there you go. I'm actually part of that bet. So anyway, there are even Super Bowl odds for both the heads and the tails, right? So if the coin flips for negative, let's just say 240, plus prop odds is maybe the heads, and then the Chiefs winning the game. Maybe you can do the over, wager on the tails side if the Eagles happen to win the Super Bowl, and say, well, I guess I'm going to make big money on this. No, this is not a big money move. I don't even suggest anybody take that seriously. But when it comes to the actual coin toss, through the first 58 games, tails has come up 30 times, which is 52%, and heads at 28 times, which is 48%. So maybe some pizza money on it. But if you're a legitimate person and want to take that bet or not take that bet, that's completely up to you. But to be honest with you, like anything else, it's a 50-50 split, and you don't know what you're going to get. There have been teams that have called heads and teams that have called tails. And then, like Jerome Bettis did, he called tails, and they said it was heads. He says, no, tails. Well, he picked heads, and they didn't end up winning that game. So, yeah.
Well, sometimes you win and it doesn't work out. You say, we want the ball and we're going to score.
Or I defer, and I like our chances on the other side, the other side of half. So, again, one of those bets that people want to consider, and some that don't. But no, seriously, when you look at actual odds of guys who, have kind of shown the propensity, I wasn't going to place a prop bet on whether or not Jaden Daniels was going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. But guess what? He did. He won the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. So congratulations to my guy from San Bernardino, California. I got to give props to him because he comes from a very tough area. Anybody who lives there or knows Southern California knows how brutal that place actually is. But I'm going to go with D-Hop here. I know I mentioned that earlier. He's on the over for me at maybe 2.2. And you mentioned about the anytime touchdown with Travis Kelce. I'm down with that as long as they're in the red zone. If they're in the red zone, you pick him anytime, and that's where that's where the money is, or at least a side bet if you want to call it, maybe even a parlay if you want to go there. If the opposite, guy for the Eagles gets it done, whether it's AJ Brown or whether Saquon Barkley put on the outside to scamper in for an anytime touchdown. But I think Travis Kelce is probably the best option for that in regards to anytime touchdown. So yeah, good call on that, Bo.
I almost feel like if he doesn't get a touchdown in this game, they don't win.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you because of the double. You have to recognize the coverages. You have to recognize where your individual guy is there. Now, if there's a tight end set on the opposite side and Travis Kelce's a part of that, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, it's going to Kelce, and that will be a touchdown, which could be the difference maker. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous about the field goal kicker for the Eagles, whereas Butker's been kind of like lights out leading up to the Super Bowl. So this is going to be quite interesting. Maybe a 3-point spread, deciding who wins or loses. But as we know, it's who makes the least amount of mistakes could ultimately win the game. And to leave the referees out of the conversation, that means don't send them Christmas cards, Patrick.
I mean, we made it almost a whole hour without talking about the refs too.
Don't get me started. That's another hour.
All right, I just came up with a prop bet with the minutes that we have left. Which is going to be more, the number of flags thrown by a referee, or the number of birdies that Scotty Scheffler makes on Sunday at the Waste Management final round? That should be a prop bet somewhere, but it probably isn't. So
but what probably is one? What probably is a prop bet is if there's more flags than incompletions. I bet that's a prop bet somewhere.
Or flags versus touchdowns or first downs.
Yeah, I was going to say if it was touchdowns, you would take the flags all day.
Yeah, but in first downs, can you overwrite? Right? Can you overwrite those flags? Can you right the ship despite the face of yellow adversity?
See, that's where you'd really get the conspiracy theorists, because if it was about to win first down wise, and then last play of the game, it's like, oh, flag.
Oh, wait, there's a call.
I can't even imagine getting mad at myself for losing a bet like that. I'd probably just start laughing.
Oh, I wouldn't be mad. That would be, because you're already betting on something laughable, right? Like you're placing that bet fully expecting to lose your money.
Yeah.
Just put like a 20 spot on it or something, some cheesy.
Yeah. I know you guys got to get to another show. I know Jim has another show and Bo has his starting up here in about 3 minutes. So I'll be very brief. I'm 23-5 in the Super Bowl. That means I've lost 18% of them. It also means I've done this for 30 years, and I realize that the common sense approach here is that you don't take my advice because I'm 82%. That I'm going to make very clear, but I am betting the Eagles, and I'm going to take the 1.5. And then I'm going to be doing in-game bets too appropriately. So I hope Kansas City scores first, like Washington did last week when I said I would take the Eagles if Washington scored first, and that worked out pretty darn good. As always, bet with your head never over it. May all the wins be yours. And guys, I really appreciate your time this year. We put on an amazing show. We have 67% free pick record, for goodness sake. I don't know of another show that can actually documents their picks and then has that kind of win percentage. So it's going to be tough for us to do that back-to-back years, but I'm looking forward to it already. So again, thanks for your expertise. And, I guess I will just sign off with that. So again, lastly, bet with your heads this Sunday. It's not worth going for it. Have fun, drink too much, leave the pocketbook alone, and may all the wins be yours.